Do you all like drawing circles? I like drawing circles. So sometimes in GameMaker you might want to draw a circle. Let me just create myself an object. Let me give it a draw event. Let me say in the draw event, draw circle. Circle, please. We can draw at the object's X, Y, with a radius of, let's say, 50. That's not 50. With a radius of 50, and outline only is going to be false, so we are going to be drawing a filled circle. And let's give it a color too, just for good measure. Draw, set, color, with the color of yellow. And we can, let's drag one of these objects into the room, and we're just going to draw ourselves a circle. Alright, that's pretty circular. It's yellow. It's definitely a yellow circle. If you wanted to, you can also draw a bigger circle. Let me say with a radius of 1,000 instead of 50. And I'm going to move this object a little more into the corner just to ensure that we're actually going to see the edge of it. And when we do that, we can see that when we try to zoom in on the circle, when we try to draw a bigger circle, its edge isn't actually round. But instead what we're seeing is that circles in GameMaker and in computers in general are actually composed of triangles. And the reason for that is that computers really, really, really like drawing triangles. And when GameMaker and many other graphics abstraction libraries tell the GPU to draw a circle, what they're actually doing internally is creating a triangle fan, which has a spiral of triangle points arranged around a center point, and that, with a high enough degree of precision, with enough triangles, is generally enough to fool the eye into thinking it's actually looking at a circle. Computers don't really do well with curves in general. Curves are really just almost always just lines, composed of very short line segments. So, okay. It would be nice, then, if GameMaker at least allowed us to have a bit of a say in exactly how much precision these circles use when they are drawn. And as it turns out, there is a handy function called Drawsetcircleprecision. And this is a function which will do exactly what I just described, and it will allow you to determine the precision at which a circle's edge is drawn. By default, the value is 24, so circles in GameMaker by default will be composed of 24 triangles arrayed around the center. You are allowed to go up to 64. And when I do this and when I run the game, you will see that the edge of the circle is much smoother. If you really squint, you can still sort of see that the edge of the circle is composed of line segments, and therefore that the circle is actually just a whole lot of triangles. But it's definitely much smoother. When you have 64 triangles, each segment is it's definitely much smoother than it was before. When you have 64 triangles, each segment of the triangle around the edge bends away from a straight line by a little less than 6 degrees, and it's really hard to tell unless you're looking really closely. And certainly, if you were to draw a much smaller circle, let's say with a radius of 250, it would be very difficult indeed to tell that this is not actually a geometrically perfect circle, and that we're actually just drawing a triangle fan. So the minimum that you're allowed to go with Drawsetcircleprecision is 4, and this isn't going to look great. It's not really looking circular, it's looking more like a square that's been rotated 45 degrees on its axis. That's going too low doesn't really accomplish anything unless you want like a deliberately polygonal look to everything in your game. Another thing of note is that the arguments for Drawsetcircleprecision have to be a perfect multiple of 4, so it has to be 20 or 24 or 40 or 64 or something like that. If you try to draw a circle with, say, 7 segments, it's not actually going to work. We're not going to get a heptagon of any sort. We're just going to get another square, because GameMaker will round this parameter down to the nearest multiple of 4. The rounding 7 down to the nearest multiple of 4 is going to give us 4. If you wanted to draw a circle with a precision of 10, we would suddenly have an octagon. All right, let me move this back to the middle of the room a little bit so that we can see the whole thing. But we now have an octagon. I'm tempted to say that maybe you could use this to draw like a regular n-gon or something, but really you can't. What with the fact that you can't actually rotate this, because generally when you're drawing a circle, you wouldn't really have a need to rotate it, because they're circles, they're like radially symmetric. And the fact that you can only draw set circle precision with a multiple of 4, meaning that you can only draw like a rotated square, an octagon, a dodecagon, and then after that it just starts to look sort of circular anyway, it doesn't really make it a very useful function for doing that. If you want to draw like a heptagon or a hexagon or something, you can easily write your own primitive drawing function to do that. Anyway, that's all I have. That is Drawsetcircleprecision. If you want a mathematically perfect circle, you can use a shader, but I want this video to be short because sometimes I just like making short and simple videos about little known things about GameMaker like this. You can use a shader, but that's a story for another day. For now, my name is Michael. I like wizards, dragons, and making games. I try to post about 2 game dev videos a week. Generally, they're a little bit more involved than this, but this was just a short thing that I felt like making a video on today, so here we are. I have a Patreon, so if you want to contribute towards these videos being made, there will be links to that in all the usual places. Otherwise, I hope you all found that interesting, and I will see you all later. Special thanks to Kiara Elizabeth, Connor, David Key, Edward Holt, Emily Koyo, Halo Factory, Posho, Sindra Larson, Tusk, and Zenith for supporting these videos. If you want to see your name in the credits or to hear yourself shouted out at the end, head on over to the Patreon page down in the video description to join the fun.